So
Okay,
thanks
perfect.
again for inviting me. As the title of the presentation is Driving Change Management in COVID Times. Change management is super important for us. Drishti is a startup, as maybe some of the attendees here. We are trying to shake, well-established practices in our customers, and change management is super important for us. I run the customer experience team at Drishti, the global VP for the practice. I'm there for the last 2 years, and very excited to be here again. So let me start with the content. So let me tell just a little bit about what Rishi does. I think it's important to understand it before you understand, or in order to understand how important is change management for us. So we are a computer vision company. We install cameras that we serve manufacturing customers. So we install cameras in the shop floor. This is a shop floor example. We install cameras on top of the operations to be executed by operators in the shop floor, by humans. And then the computer vision solution that we developed will observe the operation and predict data or produce data out of that observation. The company is a little bit more than 3 years old, 4 years old. We are endorsed by some of the biggest players in the space of AI, and also into the manufacturing space. Some of our investors are Anderson Horowitz, basically one of the most reputable investors here in the Silicon Valley. We are based in Mountain View. And also manufacturing companies are strategic partners as well, and investors like Hella, Micron, and Toyota Ventures. We also have other investors like Emergency, there is behind Zoom, and other companies. We've been working with pretty much the top players in every one of the segments that we are going after. So 3 of the top auto manufacturers, 6 of the top 10 auto tier ones. They are the first tier of suppliers into the OEMs, and many other players in the industry. We also have the endorsement and partnership with some of the biggest consulting companies in the manufacturing field. So we have a lot of endorsement. We're very proud of where we are. Let me tell a little bit more about what we do, or the kind of problem that we try to solve. Manufacturing is an industry that is 120 years old-ish. So serialized manufacturing started with Henry Ford, Ford engines back in the beginning of last century. It was then a very, very manual operation. And as much as we are led to think that robots are taking over the shop floor, the truth is that most of the products that we have today are touched by humans in the manufacturing process all the time. So cell phones are a great example. One of the most popular cell phones that we use these days is manufacturing line with 200 stations side by side. There are 200 people assembling or running assembly operations, and there's very little or very few robots in the actual process. And that's true for manufacturing in general. More than 70% of the activities in the manufacturing space are performed by humans. Humans are super flexible. We can learn. We can perform, tasks in an established way. And robots are not even close to be a good replacement for humans. But that said, managing the stability of the standardized work in the shop floor when the activities are performed by people, by humans, has been very hard. So since the very beginning, what was done there in the Henry Ford factories was someone with a stopwatch would observe the operations and then take measurements. What we propose is, as I mentioned, a computer vision solution that with cameras, the AI agent watches the operations and then predict KPIs and also, like cycle time, the time that the operations took to be performed, and other important KPIs. And with that level of precision and high resolution data, we or most of our customers are seeing, defect reduction, better training, and other benefits. So that's what Drishti does. Now, let me move a little bit on, what's customer experience in that scope. We do technical onboarding. That's how we call all the hardware on premises related activities. So that's all the installation of cameras, configuration, and so on. Then we do business onboarding. So business onboarding is essentially change management and making sure that users will actually use the software solution as planned. So that also encompasses training and other professional services offerings. And of course, after everything is installed and up and running and users are onboarded, there are the potential changes and customer support. So that's what customer experience does at Drishti. Now, these conversations about change and change management, right? So change is never easy. Actually, it's pretty hard. We are habit creatures. We don't like change just in general. And there is this little joke from Dilbert that I'll give you a second to read. But this is a little bit dramatic, of course. But the truth is that we are all a little bit allergic to changes. In the manufacturing space, people have been using stopwatches to inspect and do what is called motion and time studies, literally for 120 years. It was a common practice in the very beginning, and the stopwatches were different, but we still use the very same, manufacturing still uses the very same concept. And then there is a number of issues related to this, right? So there is observation bias. When you have someone watching an operator do something, the operator by definition will behave differently. There is, just the inaccuracy of the data collection process in itself, and there are a number of other challenges. After the data is actually collected with the stopwatches, people would take notes in a sheet of paper, and then input the data into a spreadsheet, and then and only then go to analysis. So that's the current process today. That's how pretty much 100% of the manufacturers do this today. What Rishi is proposing is, oh yeah, you just forget about these 3 initial steps that, by the way, take 60% of the time today. And also, we're going to provide you tens of thousands of production cycles instead of just a handful. So these graphics will show differently. They will feel differently as well. So how one should drive customers to this new radical way to deal with data and come up with conclusions regarding continuous improvement in the shop floor? It's not easy. So the approach we decided to take was, as much as high touch as possible, and that's, I think, the best comparison that I could find. We go one-on-one. We teach customers or new users how to use the tool, literally holding their hands through the process. So it's pretty much like, learning to ride a bike. And keep in mind, as I mentioned before, that we are enterprise, B2B, very low volume, very high touch, very, very high touch. So we used to have on-site training for each one of our deployments. We developed this idea of playbooks that is especially important here, and I'm going to talk about this later. Playbooks are new ways to deal with the tasks at hand, leveraging the software solution that is now available. And these are business outcome focused. So every playbook will give customers a specific outcome that is what they expect. And we've had, as I mentioned, a lot of personalized coaching. So that's how we used to do things. And then COVID hit. And I don't want to sound tone deaf here. So COVID took almost 3 million lives around the world, and it's a once in a lifetime event. The truth, though, is that for Drishti, being so high touch, it was a existential crisis. So we either would find a way to deal with how to teach our customers how to use the solutions, or we were going to the risk of going out of business. And it was a very fundamental moment for us. Out of the blue, we could not travel to customer sites anymore. We even had people, dedicated people to a few strategic customers, living in the customer sites, working there, 8 hours per day. And most of our customers would not take visitors anymore, at least for some time. In fact, I think 75% of our customers actually shut down operations for at least 4 to 6 weeks. So their factories were closed. The customers were reevaluating the situation and trying to figure out what to do. And, from one day to the other, everything was supposed to be remote. Zoom or video conferencing was the new way to go. We've regrouped. So we knew we had a 6 weeks of buffer to think through what to do. We evaluated the situation, and then we decided to go with what we call an in-app tutorial solution that could help us to coach the new users in a semi-personalized way, and still would be able to help us, or would enable us to deliver remotely most of the time. And we had other challenges as well, the installation of cameras and other things that we would do on site. We had to learn how to do those remotely as well, but that's a different conversation. So specifically for the change management side, we decided to go on these live in-app tutorials. So we evaluated a number of different solutions, and we finally settled on user guiding. I'll show you what we did, but the new idea was to do something like this. So essentially, we wanted a robot to handhold users' hands to walk through what we created as these virtual playbooks. And if you pay attention to the kid here, he's a little bit scary. So yeah, which makes sense. This is a new approach, and we tried our best to mimic the way we were delivering the solution. So this is a screenshot of the new virtual playbooks, and I'll actually take some risk here and walk you through the actual ones in a second. So let me just talk a little bit about how we deliver this. So we decided to go in two different ways. We knew that our users, once they are onboarded, they usually have some hard time with a few different features. So we identified those features, and then we created a direct link in the portal, in the help icon. There is directed connected to the in-app tutorials for 6 or 7 critical features that are a little bit harder to learn. And then users could go completely self-service, come here, click on it, and then follow a tutorial step by step and learn how to use that particular feature. That was one way to go. The second way to go, and this is what I'm saying here, the second way to go was via email. So we mapped what we call the idealized user journey. When a user starts, what is a beginning user supposed to do in the solution? What is an intermediate user? When a beginner is promoted to an intermediate, what are the steps that have to be taken? And then what are the steps that an intermediate user has to take, and so on. So we map the user journey. And then for each one of the new users, as part of the onboarding experience, we send individualized emails to them with some context, and then a link to the in-app tutorial that they have to follow, or they should follow at that specific point on their journey. So let me jump here into a quick demo, just so you see how this works. So this is a live demo of the Drishti portal. This is a customer operating. So this is the icon that I did mention. When I click in the icon, there are a few different virtual playbooks that customers can follow. If one clicks here, there is a little explanation, and then you click next. It tells you where you need to click. You click in the app. So it is completely interactive. The user is actually interacting with the portal. This is not a GIF or an animated GIF or a video. The user is learning how to perform that operation. That's what we wanted to give. The second way to do this, so let me cancel this one. The second way to do this is via the emails that I did mention. So this is one of the examples of emails. So have a quick introduction, and then an animated GIF just to show the user what to expect, and then some of the benefits of that particular feature. And we have, as I mentioned, one email of these for each one of the different steps in the journey. So the user has a link here, the user clicks here and jumps directly into one of the user guiding tutorials. So again, this is a tutorial, you click next, it tells you where you need to click, and so it goes. So I think the beauty of these, or one of the big things for us, and that was a big driver of selection for this product, for user guiding, was that all of these tutorials, and we have 24 of these that we call virtual playbooks. They were all developed by someone from my team, an industrial engineer, former industrial engineer, with a lot of experience in manufacturing, who knows how to operate the Drishti portal, but has no programming experience or no technical experience whatsoever. So being able, for that person, being able to create all the playbooks was a big win. And it was exactly what we were looking for in terms of a tool. So let me go back to my presentation here for a second. So I did mention this. What's next for us? What we see ahead. So very first, we need to fine tune some of the tutorials. So there is analytics coming back with results to us, a few interesting insights. So we know which tutorials are followed all the way, and the ones that people always leave behind some of the steps. So we're trying to figure out, what's the right length of each one, the number of steps of each one of the tutorials, and how to spice them up a little bit to make them, less boring. So we increase engagement in the tutorials themselves. We also have analytics for the click-through on the emails. So we know that some emails are more effective than others. So we're also trying to play with subject of the email and content and so on. We need to improve integration, and that's one of the very technical next steps. So our directory of users is not integrated with user guiding today, and there are a number of things that we miss because of that. Once we do that, we want to have better analytics, but it's too soon to have that conversation just yet. Okay, so that's it. So that's most of the content that I wanted to share with you today. I'll be happy to take questions as you might have. And you can find my LinkedIn address here. I'll publish it in the notes as well. But that's it. So let me stop sharing. There you go.
Thank you, Clayton. I mean, thank you for the presentation, and also thank you for sharing the user guiding demo. I mean, thank you for showing how you are using user guiding and its impacts on Drishti. So we can check the questions right now. We have a couple of questions, and I can ask you a question, and then we can give a break, because right now we have 5 minutes for the other session. So Liam asked a question like, the in-app solution must have taken time to develop, test, and implement, not to mention taken up development resources. Did you have any strategies in place in the interim or before the app was made available to maintain customer relationships?
Okay, so I'll try to answer, and I'll wait for the additional comments. So it took us, so we had a window to react to after COVID, right? So we knew that our customers were off for anything between 4 to 6 weeks. And we knew we had a window of maybe 8 to 10 weeks to come up with the virtual playbooks. It took us less than that time to make user guiding available in the portal. So making it available in the portal was trivial. So it's a snippet of code. It was really easy. Developing the tutorials was easy, but it is an iterative process. So you have to try several times. You have to play with different screen resolutions. There is some back and forth that has to be gone. We prioritized these because it was so important for us. And we were able to develop the 24 tutorials in 3 to 4 weeks. We tested all of them into our pre-prod environment and then published them into the production environment in that period. So it was, I would say, pretty fast, at least based on some of the other products that we evaluated. Yeah, I don't know if that answers all the questions, but
yeah, I mean, Liam also sent us a reply and said that makes sense. So thank you again, Clayton, for attending our event. I really liked your presentation, so insightful. And as I mentioned, thank you for sharing your dashboards and panels with us. So for our attendees, if you have any questions, I guess you can reach out Clayton through his LinkedIn account and send your questions to him through LinkedIn. So again, thank you for attending, Clayton.
Thank you. And by the way, I'm also into that Slack channel that Miranda mentioned. So happy to meet you there as well. Thank you again, guys, and you have a wonderful remaining of the event.
Thank you, Clayton. See you.